Go ahead.
This is Chandra Lynn, and you're watching The Break It Down Show.
I never say your name right. I can't decide if it's Chandra, Chandra.
Well, it's Chandra with a hard CH.
I thought so.
Okay,
And then
wait.
the other day I thought you softened it up and I'm like, oh, she says Chandra. So I was like saying Chandra the other day. Anyhow.
Sorry, my Facebook Live is going live on me. So sorry if there was a little audio glitch. Yeah, it's Chandra. Thanks for
Chandra
asking.
Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've known each other for a number of years now. We've worked together on a number of guests that you've brought on the show. You helped us get Andy Summers. Holy cow. I mean, it's just, a lot of wonder. Dave Audet, who's I don't know if I can call him my friend. I think he's my friend, but
Dave's everyone's
Pete,
friend.
quit. Yeah. He's a super sweetheart of a guy.
Did you know he moved to Nashville?
I do. Yeah. And then there's Joe Solo. Joe, you got happy birthday, Joe, by the way.
Happy birthday, Joe.
Yeah, his birthday was just the other day. And yes, you have to call me. We have to talk. But in general, I thought we might catch up and talk a little bit about, because look, you in the music industry, you're well established and you know everybody and you're able to move within that network because you've built that thing. But for anybody in modern times, COVID times, you have to be ready to pivot and to reimagine what you do, which is something that one of the reasons why your network is so robust is that you're always reimagining, reinventing, being creative. I thought we might have a conversation on that particular skill set that you have, and then what you see in the marketplace in terms of people who are looking at their career and saying, my career is not COVID proof. It's not calamity proof. What can I do to be more resilient?
Yeah, well, certainly the music industry is seeing a lot of challenges with that, not being able to tour and having to think outside the box on new ways to make money. And I see that little sign behind you that says Chandra Lynn at Trubify. That's awesome.
We'll have the Trubify thing is just in general. That's us. That's not meant to attribute to you, but we are working on Trubify together, though.
That's our that's one of our new projects that we'll have to, notify everybody about. But the bottom line with that one is that it's helping artists find new ways of monetizing. So it fits right into this conversation, which is why I brought it up. People might be like, she doesn't work for Trubify. No, I work for myself and I have for a long time, with Glow Marketing in the music industry and working with other brands like, Apple and Mercedes and Tyra Banks and, whatnot. But actually, recently I've been working with a company called Mojo Vision and a telemedicine company called Eden Health. So I've branched out a little bit beyond the music industry. But, the thing about the music industry is that they are having challenges right now, obviously, with how to make money. And so the Trubify thing interested me because I was like, well, anything I can do to help artists make money and, keep the flow of the creativity and get, keep the music out there, I want to be a part of and roll it out. So I'm really hoping that that'll be something we can more formally announce for NAMM. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, that career pivots are huge right now. People have been, plodding along with certain career paths and they're realizing, they're not pandemic proof and I've got to, figure this out. And, I just have to tell you, Pete, that before this show, I listened to the one that we did a while back together. And it's amazing how relevant it all still is. We actually were talking about career pivots back then, too. Yeah. I think it's just something that's always, very important to look at because people can get so stuck there and so much pain and everything going on with not being happy with your career. And figuring out, what's authentic, but also can give you the financial security is just top of mind for everybody. And especially these days with the pandemic. So what you actually gave some advice I'm going to remind you of, because maybe it's not as fresh for you, but you had said, a lot of times you'll recommend for people to just slow down. And I really believe that the pandemic is a sacred pause time to be able to slow down enough to re-examine what's in their heart and what they feel passionate about, moving forward to do. The pandemic's kind of like a snow globe, not even just the pandemic, but like how many layers of things have we had to deal with, during this time?
Yeah.
And it's like the snow globe that's shaking everything up, and nobody knows where the snow is going to settle. And so it's a time for us, while we're in that, whirlwind of uncertainty, to ground down into ourselves and figure out what's important to us. I think that it's time to re-examine our values, our passions, and create something that's rooted out of that, not just waiting for the world to figure itself out. We have to figure it out from within first.
That slowing down process too, because one of the reasons why I say that a lot is that the common excuse that you hear is more training, work harder, work later, work longer. And those things are all, I mean, you have to work hard, but there is elegance in what you do as you get better at it. And like when I hung that sign up on my homemade hat stand, I couldn't figure out how to get the string to do what I wanted it to do, because in my head it was going to work one way, and I had to just slow down and go, I can make this thing work. And so I figured it out, and I thought to remind myself, like, this is about that elegance, of a solution that's the right solution in the right time. And I think your snow globe example is fantastic, because you shake the snow globe up, you look at it, you gaze in it. It is truly your world. I have a different snow globe than you. It looks different. It behaves differently. And yet we're in the same bigger snow globe. So I have to allow, let's say you're an anti-masker, Trump supporter type person. I can't just ignore you. I can't eliminate you. Let's say that you're a creative person and you are trying to you haven't been paid in 6 months, and all of your gigs for next year, who the hell knows? Those are all different people, are stressed out in different ways. And if you're just sitting there staring at your snow globe, getting mad because people are not doing what you want them to do, you're not going to be as successful as someone who slows down and says, okay, there's a lot of people involved in this. Like with this, not to bring up Trubify again, but with the Trubify thing, like we've all heard a million startups say, I know how to save the world. I know how to save, make your money. So we can't just say, here's how you're going to make money. We have to say, hey, this is something we can work on together. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is kind of co-creating. There's external forces, and then there's internal forces. And when we can say, well, we can't control everything, we can only control certain things, but to not feel completely powerless because we can't control everything, we look at the power and find our personal power from within, and then go, okay, I'm going to co-create with that, with those forces, because it's not something that you're going to be able to fully control, but it's also not something where you don't have any. And I think that that's where that balance comes in, of going, well, what can I offer the world? What can I do about all this? Because it's just so frustrating to feel like you can't do anything. And I think with that said, people are saying, well, I'm not even going to vote because, it's not going to matter anyway. It's just fucked up anyway. You hear all that. And it's like, well, actually, we still energetically and, have to show up in the world and do our part. And then ultimately it will shake out how it shakes out. And we can't control everything, but we can show up as the best versions of ourselves to support the collective.
And then the ability to moderate what you put your energy and attention into. If anybody who hasn't seen the Social Media movie on Netflix should watch that horror show, and then actually take individual action. And I'm not saying get rid of social media. I think you and I both, especially, like, what we do requires a social
We're on it
presence.
right now. Yeah, we're hopefully bringing good things to people right now through it. Yeah, I actually
Right.
saw that documentary. It's interesting. It definitely, had its bent, and it definitely, I think the challenge with that one was it kind of ratcheted up people's fear, and I'm not into things that add fear into the world, but I see that it was a definitely a cautionary tale of what can happen with people, trying to control you. It's really great to have that critical thinking, and know that there's more forces at work, and if you're seeing certain ads, that's deliberate and whatnot. But there's also, like you said, ways that you can leverage to your own benefit and do great things for lots of people with it.
Yeah, and I saw a post the other day about someone who had canceled their folks, and I thought, goodness gracious, like, what do we like? And I'm like, why am I spending time on this? And then I'm like, I quickly got away from it because that's their deal, and I have no idea why or if or should or whatever. But I realized, like, I just don't need to spend a minute on this person's, breakup with his parents and why they posted that. And the point I bring up is not to talk about this person's parents at all, but to say those 5 minutes, I could have grabbed my paints and a canvas. I could have grabbed my guitar. I could work on that outline for that book I've been writing. I mean, 5 minutes towards something is a good run and start towards whatever it is you're going to work on for the next 30 to 60 minutes. And I think
Ooh,
as,
I
as
like
we
that.
yeah, and as we
I
look at
like
all
that.
these things that we want to try to do, they have a path. I mean, if you want to become a millionaire, there is a path. You can literally follow someone's guidance and you will get, if not all the way there, pretty damn close. We know how to do this now. It's not a mystery, but those 5 minute segments add up to 5 hours if you don't start to marshal them into some kind of organized push towards where you're going. Even if you don't know where that place is, trending in that direction. What are your thoughts on marshaling time?
Well, I like what you said about that. What it boiled down to was, take action towards your goals and the things that are important to you. And yeah, it does take time management, but there's something before that has to
Mm.
happen from within. You have to have that stirring of energy around what is important to you. So it really comes down to, and these are kind of three philosophical questions. One is, what do you want? And a lot of people get stuck there. We don't all know what we want. And we talked about that in the last show. It's like, where are we going? Are we going from California to New York? Are we going to, New Orleans? Are we going to Michigan? I mean, we don't know. We have to figure out where we're going. And that's really like, what do we want? And that's a hard question as it is. And until you answer that, you can't go on to the second question. But the second question is, why do we want it? We might think we know what we want. And then when we go deeper and explore why we want
Oh,
something,
this is
we
such a
might
good one.
realize, oh, there is some need it's serving or something that I didn't realize, would potentially send me in the wrong direction. Or maybe this is my calling and that's the right direction. And then it gives us that reason, that deep-seated reason why we need to take action and manage our time appropriately to get there. And then the third question is totally action oriented, which is, what are we willing to do about it? I think that some people, and we talked about this last time, actually, it's funny, some of these are recurring topics because they're so important, is that they can throw a lot of things in front of themselves to feel ready or enough, or good enough to be able to embark on those goals. And what happens is it just gets them further and further away from it. So some of this is about taking action. And if it requires you to schedule it in, like you said, it could be 5 minutes of your time. It could be an hour in the morning. A lot of successful people have morning routines, and that's what keeps them going with their goals, because the world, and the busyness has a way of just kind of coming in at you and like taking over your life. But if you give yourself that morning routine before turning on all the devices, before, responding to the world, that you've progressed in a certain way towards your goals. And I think that progress is what brings people joy. That is what genuinely makes you love life, is when you feel that joy from the progress towards something meaningful. So that's what I invite people to do is, take time to look at, and this is that sacred pause thing. What is it that you want? Why
Mm.
do you want that? And what the hell are you willing to do about it? There's a lot of people I hear don't tell me about goals, things they want to do. They have no idea really what need it's serving for them. Maybe they think they do, but they haven't gone deep enough. And they're just not putting one foot in front of the other to walk down that path of what it takes to do it, even if it's following someone else's path until you figure out your own. Like you said, there's guides for everything almost.
There's some real importance to what you're talking about, and again, this is where you slow down. Like, I want to write a book. Okay, well, again, there's a path, and I'm not saying this is easy, but it is straightforward. Like, here are steps you can take. You can take an alternate path or a divergent path. There's a lot of writers who write about different things, but if you're not willing to go ass in chair for, let's start with 10 minutes and build up to 16 hours if you're going to become a writer, then you need to at some point say, I have to either develop ass and chair strength, or I have to find something else that I do within writing to make my money, to support writers. Maybe, look, not everybody's a writer. Some people are editors and some people are book marketers. There's a lot of things you can do. But if you don't start to go, what do I need to prove to myself? To get into shape is fairly straightforward. You have to, you know, You have to work out on some kind of a schedule. You don't have to be a Hulk at first, but what's a reasonable path that you know you could do every day and succeed at?
It's cool that you brought up writing a book because I decided to turn my Root to Rise program into a self-help book. I'm saying it out loud to commit to more than myself on it. But as some of your listeners who have heard our shows before know, and many new ones don't, that I have an online course called Root to Rise. And actually the framework is right behind us. So this is the infographic for it. And a lot of people have asked me, well, first of all, people are kind of getting burnt out online. And so they want something physical, like a physical book. So I've been, more encouraged to write it and put it together and make it a standalone thing. They can go to the online course to watch my videos, but they can, some kind of thing they can work with, a workbook type of thing. So I've been working on it, and I don't say myself as a writer. I mean, I have writing skills, but a lot of people share that desire to have a book or write something. And now more than ever, it's easier. You can self-publish through KDP, through Amazon, and it's not like in the past where you had to have buy 1,000 books, work with a publisher, and then just see what sells. Now, they can print on demand, and it makes it really affordable. You can publish author, no problem. By the way, I see a little bit of glitching on my screen. Are you able to hear me and see me okay? Just a quick tech
I
check.
mean, it's a little bouncy, but we're well within the norm for what the wireless can provide. So we're good.
Okay. And so, but yeah, to your point that when you identify a goal kind of like that, I want to write a book or something, that you can break down steps. There's a really great book, The Artist Within, that talks about, and there's a companion workbook to that one too, talks about how to get that book done by scheduling that time for yourself in the morning, and do morning pages, writing an hour a day, that kind of thing. And so, thank you for that link. Yeah, that's my course on teachable.com. It's called Root to Rise. And yeah, I hope to have a book for everybody, within a reasonable amount of time. Like I said, I've never done it before, but I was also thinking about Brene Brown. I heard this one speech that she did, that she talked about, I'm not a writer, but I'm a storyteller. And so I would sit down with my assistants and I'd start telling them stories, and they would put together the notes, and then they'd send it back to me to comment on and be able to take the next level. And so there are lots of different ways that, we can pull it out of ourselves. There's dictation, transcription services now. So if you're more of a audiology, or what is that, the audio learner, you can auditory learner, excuse me, you can use that to your advantage and record things that can get transcribed. And that's, you don't have to sit there and write like in the traditional, Shakespearean sense of like quill and paper, to make it happen. There's lots of tools and technologies just to get it out, get it out.
And open your mind to opportunities for this. I mean, you could take the top 10 self-helpy themed shows that I've done, and an hour-long conversation has thousands of words in it. I mean, it's, if you read a book, if you listen to a book on Audible, it's 8 hours, it's 6 hours, it's 9 hours. Well, that's 9 episodes of the Break It Down show. You literally can take that stuff, condense it, and turn it into a book. I mean, I'm not saying it's that simple, but it is straightforward. That if you're like, I don't want to type, I just go for a walk and talk into your phone, record it, get it transcribed. And like you said, there's so many services. I use Otter.ai, and it's not 100% accurate, but for the purposes of what you would want to do, it's totally fine. You can sort through what it is, and you're just editing as opposed to conceptualizing and writing and framing and all the other things. You've already done that work.
Well, and this is for songwriting too, because I know we usually talk about my experience in the music industry, but I've definitely interviewed a lot of artists, Steve Vai, I've got a bunch of videos from him. And one of the things is, talking about how to break through and, unblock your creativity and any, get unstuck from anything holding you back from being creative. And a lot of it is getting back to that why, and then what are you willing to do about it? Are you willing to take an hour a day in the morning? Are you willing to,
Right.
dictate your thoughts for the day each day? Are you, whatever your tools are, doesn't really matter. That's personal choice, but are you willing to commit to it? And that's a question that, everybody really needs to ask themselves to be able to kind of, see something through to the end. And that brings me also to, I'm curious, Pete, if you're like this. I think visionary entrepreneurial people can often have these really great ideas, big ideas.
Mhm.
And so they have all this energy to get them started, but
Mhm.
then they're on to the
Yes.
next vision. And it's hard to see things all the way through. It's almost like their perfect complement would be somebody who could then take that vision and run with it and
Yeah.
make it happen. Are you that kind of person that is a really great starter, or are you somebody that can really see things through? I mean, you've got like almost 800 episodes of the Break It Down show, so you're clearly able to see things through. But do you find yourself more visionary or more like committed to something over the long term?
I think I'm easily distracted by, I like a lot of things. And so I can certainly see things through, but I have to hold myself to a standard. And what I've learned about myself, and it's only taken, I don't know, 49 years to do it. And I'm 50 now. But
I'm
if I'm
52.
not,
I'm 50 also. I was going to say 52. No, I'm 50 also.
what I've learned by doing all that is that the things I'm not putting energy into, I don't truly care about. Because if I did, I would act differently. So I make a lot of sacrifices to get over 800 shows published. We're actually approaching 850 recorded episodes. Not all
Oh,
published,
wow.
but yeah. So there's quite a bit of work in that, right? So obviously, I know how to do that.
Huge.
And one of the pieces of advice I give in terms of trying to answer your question in general to people who are like, hey, I want to start a podcast. First off, I say you should do it, just like set your mind to doing it. Now let me show you the hurdles, because here's the hard part. Most shows fail by 10 episodes. Do you want to be that person? Are you determined no matter what? I'll do 11 and quit, but I'm not going to just do 10. And so my main advice is to go ahead and create it. Here are things you need to work on and figure out. But you probably shouldn't do it. It's probably not worth your time. Like I had a very notable actor like, hey, I want to have my own podcast. And I'm like, great. And he's like, I want to monetize right away. And I'm like, maybe you can, because you're an actor and a lot of people know you. But you're talking about not starting a podcast. You're talking about starting an entire business. And if you don't have time to run an entire business, you should probably just get another acting gig or tell your agent, like, push commercials and you'll make way more money and keep more of it. So
Well,
I'm not
that's
saying don't
that why
create.
question. Yeah, why do it? What is
Right.
the real motivation? Is it to make money, or is it that a podcast gives him a forum to be able to get his opinions and ideas out into the world and use his influence?
My buddy Todd's
You know what I mean?
chiming
Just
in with,
back to that why. Oh yeah, somebody wrote in a comment. I love it.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And Todd should write a book. And Todd's another guy's busy. He's got, he's a teacher. He's got background in the emergency management field, so he's an influencer there. And he's got a podcast. And him and his buddy have a
Ooh.
podcast studio. And he wants to write a book. Here's a guy that can do a lot of things, right? And so he's trying to, he's as old as we are, and he's trying to
The
figure it out
rhino.
too. So
Well, what he's asking about is, oh, yay, we're all 50. Amazing. And we can kick. You guys know the SNL. So Todd, mentioned taking short pieces and turning them into the book and, a book. And I think that that's fantastic because people are used to reading bite-sized pieces nowadays. I think that there's definitely obviously a lot of people who love long form novels, but I think people are conditioning themselves through social media and the way we digest information online to read shorter pieces. I know Glennon Doyle, I was just looking at her book, it's gotten really popular. I was reading and I was like, wow, all these are just like little stories, each chapter. And so, yeah, maybe it's not as daunting for some people to think of it in terms of just lots of smaller stories that can be weaved together for maybe an overarching theme. So, yeah, there's all kinds of ideas on how to do it.
yeah. Let's change gears a little bit. Okay, we've been talking about things like books and all that stuff, but let's just get gritty and let's talk about
Okay.
that person whose life has been completely changed. They had a job like I mean, all kinds of people have had their lives completely changed in terms of professional. Like tattoo parlors are struggling to stay open and get business. And even though you're open, people are terrified to go out to your business, right? And so you're trying to redefine. We talked the other day about office managers, and you're hearing everybody like, "Hey, we're going to shrink our corporate footprint and push everybody home." That's going to redefine what an office manager is, and likely make it so that their job is not the job that they had 9 months ago. So how does someone come up with a pivot? I mean, how do you go like, I'm not a creative person, I'm a mom, and I'm not making anything, like, I'm a mom, I take care of a household, I have this other job, I'm good at it, but I'm not changing the world, I can't think of anything else to do. How do we get that person thinking differently about what it is that they want to do with this next chapter of their life, should they decide to pivot? And should they decide to pivot?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind is, again, that pause of figuring out, well, is what you were doing before still what you want to move forward doing? Do you want to continue to invest in it? Because I mean, ultimately we look forward to the world opening back up and, getting back on track. So are you looking for a stopgap measure, or are you looking for a real pivot where that means in some cases letting go of your previous identity and moving into creating a new one, and that can be very difficult when people identify with something, or it can be just a minor shift. Like, say, for example, you talked about the tattoo artist. Well, they are artists and they have the ability to teach other people their craft. And so they can, maybe while they're not able to actually tattoo, they can teach and maybe, show their skills, give techniques, start a following. I mean, I think it just really depends on how they want to proceed, as far as whether they're just trying to get through the immediate pandemic and kind of keep on with what they're doing, or if they want to take the opportunity to go, I did that and that was great and
Mm-hmm.
it's part of who I am. But we're all, in my opinion, multifaceted diamonds. It's kind of why I created this logo. It's hard to line up. It's a logo of a heart. We're all multifaceted diamonds, and some of our aspects we reflect in the sun and some we keep in the shadows, and we don't show people. So what facet of yourself are you ready to show and put in the sun? Maybe a different facet than what you've had in the sun before. So I think that's the first step, is deciding that. And if you're super happy with your career, you just want to keep doing it, then, you look for ways to get through the pandemic and create still some financial security. But
Mm-hmm.
as far as the long term, do you want to still hold on to that identity, or do you want to do something new? Could be a time to go back to school, could be a time to start a business. And it gets back to what do you want to do, why you want to do it, what you're going to be willing to do about it. Whether you're in a pandemic or not, you have to answer those 3 questions.
I like to think about when I give this kind of advice, again, typically towards podcasters, but in general with young folks, is modeling, mentoring and making it happen. Like, you have to have that motivating factor. And so, yeah, if you're thinking about a pivot and you're trying to decide what to do, who's out there doing something? Maybe you're a big Brene Brown fan, and you're thinking like, I'd like to do something like she likes to do. I want to speak. And by the way, Brene's business has completely changed in the last 8 months. Everybody's had to go through this. So, she's not really a writer, but she puts out books. She's a speaker who's having to do something other than go speak at live events. She's had to do it. So maybe she's your model. And then find a mentor who's 10 years ahead of you in doing what you're doing, or who has that kind of advice. And again, I think, Chandra, these are like incremental steps. Like, if you can't go out and research, what it is that your pivot might be, and look for and pitch mentors, not every mentor is going to say yes, then you probably need to work on those facets of your game, because that goes right back to that third facet, like that making it happen. Are you making it happen? Am I going in the right direction? I think, even if it's, I think, you don't have to know, but like, these are the things that I need to do, and assess that. What do you think?
Well, I think that, what I would do first with somebody who came to me about this is really talk to them about their needs, because needs really motivate our decision making. And so right now, people have a stronger need than ever for security. It's that, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Robbins and Chloe Madonis came out with an adapted version of Maslow, and then I've adapted on that further in my Root to Rise course. But the thing is that when we understand our needs, we truly understand the motivations behind what we're doing. And so for me, I would say, are you being motivated by the need for security? Because if you are, then yeah, you're going to do something to just try to make money right now. It may or may not be the end all be all. It may not be connected to your true passions or your heart, but you're doing it because there's an opportunity. The pandemic has opened up opportunity for in some lines of work, for people that need, say, delivery services, or there's certain lines of work that have gotten, where they're way more popular right now or needed than before. And if you're just wanting to find, an opportunity to make money, then there's researching those. But if you're, say, on the other end of the spectrum of needs and you're just really wanting to be in service, give beyond yourself, you have a need, a need to really do good in the world, you may be looking at a different type of pivot. You may be looking at the type of just really meaningful giving back, kind of mindset in terms of what you're building your business around. So I think that there's a lot. We have 6 main needs, and there's times when we have to tap into, well, what's driving our decisions for what we think we want to do? Is it just this immediate need for security, or is it something tied to a higher purpose? That was pretty much my point.
One of the groups, I think, especially in our age range, that struggle with the pivot is going from a mom who's constantly momming to a mom whose kids are out of the house, or primarily out of the house. And like, I just did this for 24 years with these 3 kids, and now I don't have a purpose, and it's gut wrenching. All my friends that are going through this, I feel for them, and it's like, it's just an opportunity for you to explore this. But I'm a dude. You tell me, like, how do you advise your friends that are going through this time, because you can see them struggle with it?
Yeah, I definitely think at this age group, there's more of that going on. These friends have been in total selfless devotion for years, and
Yes.
they haven't really put themselves first. So I think there's going to be a discovery process of what is meaningful and what they want to do. I would love to tell all moms out there, because I'm a mom myself, that it's giving that time is, first of all, a noble deed. You're raising a human. There's no more important job. But I think that there's a lot of skills that we learn along the way to be able to be great at that. And so those skills can be transferable to something else. It can be great with education. It can be great with support. Some moms are going into coaching. Some moms just have a personal passion of maybe a craft that they've honed in over the years, and they're building a business around that. They can jump on Etsy. There's more opportunities with the internet than ever before. My son, who's 14, just launched a business on Depop, which is a marketplace for used clothing. He's doing recycled and upcycled apparel as a way to kind of help, the earth, and promote that you don't need to buy everything new, anymore, and promote manufacturing. Instead, you can use the resources that are already on this earth. And I think that because of marketplaces like Etsy and Depop and all these kind of places, it creates opportunity for everyone. And so just getting down to, well, what are these transferable skills that I have? What do I really enjoy doing? I have one mom who, she has been posting the most amazing baked goods. Her sourdough breads have artistic leaves and all these, things built into them. She came to my Root to Rise online. I'm sorry, I had a live workshop for Root to Rise, and she showed up. She didn't know me. She just found me on a group and said, "Oh, this class looks cool," and showed up and was brave enough to do that. And I've seen her transformation since then. She lost a bunch of weight. She got into baking. It's very, very artistic baking. Now she's doing bake sales. I'm seeing all these people clamoring to want more. And who knew back then that was what path was going to be? But it unfolds if you're really listening to your heart.
And if you can build a community, you can probably service several things at once, if that kind of work is in your heart. I know we've looked in here at the house, we've looked into different franchises, and one of them is a snow cone making company. And you can literally go out and say, hey, cover my cost, and the rest of the money goes back to the charity, or whatever it is. Like, and Todd's talking about his passion for saving the rhinos
I love that.
internationally.
That's
Like,
amazing.
how do you build some kind of event just to, like that nonprofit, they get $1,000 check from you. They don't know what's coming. They're like, oh my God, it probably comes at the perfect time when they have, the refrigerator in the office, whatever it is. They're like, this is going to help us, now we don't have to pull more funds out of this. They're already doing a lot. And so you put that money together, you sell your sourdough bread and you raise money. You can literally go, I don't need the money for me, for my financial security, but I would love to raise this money for you, or whatever it is. I mean, there's just a
To
lot
help
of
others.
ways to create value with what you do.
Well, yeah. And so when you're in that mindset of wanting to give back, that's the need that we all have to get outside of ourselves and support the collective, the larger community. And I call it transcendence. Some people
Mhm.
call it, contribution. And
Mm.
so I think that it's just, it is actually a need. It's a higher need. And what happens when you're in that zone is it actually takes care of all of your needs, because there's a lot of other needs that get served when we do that. We can connect with others. So that can be that love and connection, intimacy need. We can grow because there's so many ways that we can learn to do that and support other people and give. And, there's variety, there's so many ways that when we get into that mindset of giving back, that it can serve our own personal needs. And it just, our needs to be able to grow as people, to be able to reach, our highest potential. And that's something I'm always in support of with people, because most people don't have the mentality to think that it's possible. They for whatever reason over the course of their lives they've developed limiting thoughts. It may have been not having support as a child, or being told that they're not good enough, or comparing themselves to people in the media that seemingly have these perfect lives. There's lots of reasons why we can develop this mentality of, well, it can happen for somebody else, but not me, or I'm not good enough. And I think that those now, especially at our age, it's time to break down those beliefs, break it down, show, break down those beliefs and go, they're not serving us anymore. We have a certain amount of time left on this planet to do great things, to transcend our own needs, to give back. And of course, this is why we can no longer have the limiting beliefs in our life.
All things in life are a balance. And as you project this kind of help out and this attitude to transcend, you also have to have a foundation from which you can transcend. Oftentimes we again, this is snow globes. Oftentimes we focus too much on our snow globe, and you're pointing at somebody else's snow globe and say your snow globe's broken. Like, you need to handle your own snow globe first, right? So how do you balance between, like, how do I continue to not only create but maintain a foundation so that I'm not someone else's problem, and then I can truly contribute to the community because I'm working from a position of strength rather than hey, I'm flawed, but no one needs to know about that. So I'm going to project my help into you, because that's not helpful, is to, like, dominate with help when you yourself need help.
It's a great question, and it's really what my Root to Rise course is based on. In fact, this lower area right here is all
Uh-huh.
about our root system, right? It's about building that strong foundation. And that I work with a lot of celebrities who have reached a certain level of success, but the thing is that it's hard to expect ourselves to rise to that fullest potential unless we
Mm.
have this balanced and stabilized. But what happens in our root system is we can limit our growth in certain ways. External factors can play a part in that and limit us. And we have to find ways to, encourage and nurture our roots to grow, break through any obstacles holding us back. And, so what I've done in my course actually to help with that is break down 5 main areas of your life that, are your core value system. I call them the roots. And we analyze, there's an evaluation system built into it to figure out, well, what is holding you back in some areas? Maybe some areas you're doing great, but other areas aren't. And until you have them all really strong, to expect yourself to rise from that and even be able to contribute at your highest level isn't possible, because it's like building a building, on a landfill. You know what I mean? We've got to make sure that when we're building it on there, there's a strong foundation. And so I start this program ground up. It starts in the roots, and then it goes to this rise section where we're starting to figure out what we want and why we want it and what we're willing to do about it, so we can connect to that higher purpose. But yeah, if you don't get unstuck in your roots, if you don't, get things that have held you back, can be mindset stuff. It can be actual real life, things that are going on that need to be resolved or healed, then it's really hard to rise from that. And I wanted to say, because of our age group, and maybe the listeners are similar in that demographic, that we may find that we've gotten to this place in our lives where it's just so different than we thought it was going to be, right? Like, we had these hopes and dreams and for ourselves, and yeah, we accomplished some things, but it wasn't like we thought it would be. And this is the invitation, is to go back to the roots and really figure out where things got stuck, so that we can take the rest of these years that we have on this planet to, have the best chance to rise into those goals. And in some cases, the goals may change and be updated, because what we thought we wanted, was a childhood dream and aspiration. And as adults, we might find that other things are important. But taking that time for yourself, figure that out. What's important now and what are we willing to do about it is kind of what this whole process that I put out there is about. So yeah, getting balanced in that root system is definitely the first step, so that you have any chance of reaching higher and having those dreams come true. And I
Plug
think
my
that,
laptop in for 1 second.
yeah, sure, no problem. So yeah, in fact, I wanted to offer everybody, here's the thing, the pandemic has been so hard for people that I've gone back to my need for contribution and transcending my own needs. And I've decided to offer my Roots course for free to everybody. It's a value of $897. So I'm going to give you a link to share with your audience, and anybody who wants to enroll, it's completely free to get into this roots kind of work and just get back to the foundation. I just think now is the time for everybody to take that pause and do that personal development work. It will help people get through the pandemic and feel stronger at the end of it, and be able to have that real chance to break through those limiting beliefs, set, true realistic goals for themselves, and create what I call, that bucket list life that we all aspire to have, and start embarking on it, not for one day in the future, but where we're marking things off our list now and we're really learning to love life.
I've
So
updated
I'll
the
give you that
scroll.
link.
I've updated the scroll to show that, because that's fantastic. And thanks for doing that. I mean, these courses, I mean, look at that chart behind you. That wasn't free to create. Your time is worth money.
Oh
You had
God.
to pay someone.
I designed that. Eventually, I'll get a real designer to work on it. But I talk about the human needs on one side, how they apply to the root system, our value system, in our roots, and then. But the fun part really starts in the Rise course, and that's where we are flying, and we are really starting to embody what's in our heart and what. And I wanted to also mention, this isn't a pitch for the course because I'm giving it away. There's no revenue model here, but it really is a nature-based wisdom. It's like nature-based wisdom course. It's completely approachable to everybody because of that. It's based on universal truths. It's not based on religion. It doesn't matter whether you're a male or female, what age you are, where you live. It's really, I've designed it in a way. I mean, okay. So Pete, I'm a marketing person, and every single person in the world is telling me to be that marketing person and use this, kind of create a niche for it. Like, oh, this is for women in, 40 to 50 who are, facing empty nest. Well, that's not what I decided to do. I've gone against the marketing grain here to say it's for everybody who's looking to get unstuck in their root system so that they can grow and rise to their fullest potential. And I don't care what their background is. I want them to feel that it's approachable for them because it's nature-based and it's based on yoga philosophy and human needs psychology.
No, I love it. I think it's fantastic. let's go back to some of these limiting thoughts and beliefs, because again, like these are things like I want people in the here and now, like right now today. What can I do to get a little better, to work on my pivot? So you work with celebrities, all these world class musicians. It's impossible to be like Chandra. She's just so amazing, and she does yoga and she does all this stuff, and I could never be like that. Um, you know, the thing I would say is you work with incredibly talented people, and they don't know everything. It's easy to think that they do, like, oh, this person makes such incredible music, but I've had so many musicians tell me I don't know how to do that. I just play the keyboard, you know. I just
Oh,
think about things sonically, and they like, if you told them about Instagram, they'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know,
yeah.
because they're so gifted, and their capability is so brilliant, but it's peaky as all get out, and they need help from someone like Chandra or that next person over there who's like, oh, Instagram is so simple. They would love for you to say that to them. Let them say no. That's the other thing. People borrow no. Oh, they'll never want this. No, no, no. That they're too big to want to work with me. Like, let them say no. You know, take a shot. It doesn't hurt.
Well, yeah. I mean, nobody can be great at everything. I do know people who are Jack and Jill of all trades, where they're pretty good at most things. But in terms of being a master, it's usually because there's been a focus, a lot of time and focus spent in a particular area. And, I talked to Steve Vai about that because, he's considered a guitar god, a guitar
Right.
great. And he admits that a lot of it has to do with how much time and energy he's put on focusing on that. And that, by nature of that, there's other areas in his life that he's had to develop as he's gotten older and had mindfulness and awareness about that. And that's kind of why I developed the root system the way that I did, because you can be really good in one area. Say, we're talking about, say, career, but what are you not doing? What are you not developing? Right. So you might
Right.
be really, gung ho in your career and on the road and, making it happen. But there's a few things that might not be happening. One, your own health and fitness, because you're on the road and you're eating out a lot and you're, rushing around and there's no gym. And, so your health and fitness might start to suffer. And he was telling me how he was on the road with David Lee Roth, who was like super acrobatic, and he had to do everything he could to keep up physically with him. And, he found some lifestyle changes, veganism and things like that helped him find his energy and stay in shape for that type of thing. But yeah, when you get really good in one area and have all that focus in one area, another area might suffer. Another area that can suffer when you're living that kind of lifestyle, which a lot of people dream about doing, which is why I'm focusing on it. They want to be successful enough to be traveling around the world and things like that, is our relationships. They might have a partner at home who's living a very different lifestyle, and they have to somehow continue to create that connection and intimacy. And I definitely, guys on the road and women musicians, all whoever is traveling and being the one out in the world might have a partner at home, and that's very grounding, so it meets their needs. But that partner might have needs that aren't getting met because that person isn't truly available. And so, they have to work on relationship issues. So where they might not be, where they might be completely fulfilled in a career area of their root system, there could be other roots that are compromised. And so, we talked about this in the last podcast, but it's so much about live work balance. That seems to be a recurring theme in all that I do, is helping people create that balance, because it's in that balance that we create a strong foundation for ourselves. When one area is weak, okay, it can compromise your whole tree, right? Your whole,
Right.
being. For example, health. If your health goes bad, like what are you going to focus on? If you get coronavirus, God forbid, that's going to be your focus. You are not going to be,
Yep.
rising to anywhere else. You have to fix that first, right? You have to heal that. And so that's why I tell people to look at the balance, because if one starts to get really off and your focus has to be pulled that direction, your balance is off. And so the other areas need more attention.
Boy, I mean that's again a late 40s, early 50s lesson that we're all forced to deal with. We all have an account. Like, yeah, you have a 401k account for your future financially, but your physical 401k for your K account. You need to pack on as much muscle as you can now, because when you're 70, you're just not going to have enough muscle, so you need to think about your future in that regards, and the quality of the food you ingest, whether you want to be a vegan or paleo, whatever it is. The better quality food, the easier it is for your organs to do their job properly, which, by the way, gives you better fuel to put into your brain, because when you eat crap food, that stuff gets processed and tears your liver apart or whatever, your kidneys get torn apart, and then your brain is like, hey, I'm dealing with low octane food, and so your brain is being torn apart, and all these things come to, you like realize, holy cow, my skin is looking different now that I'm 50. My what's that pain in my back, what is, I've got stenosis started, all of these things we have to, because we're all going to live longer than we thought, I guess, at 50. You have to think about balancing that part, and it's not just go, 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 work, work, work. It's like a balanced approach is a very smart thing to do, because when you're in your 50s, you're going to have a significant life scare. I mean, it's what happens, whether it's cancer or heart or some kind of thing. Most of us get something significant that changes the way we live the rest of our life.
Well, hopefully we can prevent that from happening, not have that be our wake up call. If it's interesting with food, and I've thought about this a lot. Some of it is about looking at, do you feel worthy of buying organic over conventional? Do you feel worthy of slowing down long enough to go eat at a health food restaurant and sourcing that for yourself? Or are you just so busy with things that feel like they have to be done that you're going to hit that drive through? So I think sometimes it's the root of it is more about what are we worth it? Are we worth taking care of the way we would take care of others?
Yeah. Okay, so how do we believe that we are?
Well, and it's funny because I remember one of my friends saying, I would give my kids the whole cracker and then I would eat the broken crackers. Like, I would always give them the whole. It became a metaphor for not feeling worth the whole. When did I not be worth the whole cracker? And I think that it starts with that awareness that you're doing it because that you're putting other people first or somehow valuing other people over yourself. And so that then you can start making daily choices, just small choices. Give yourself the whole cracker. Go ahead and buy the organic this time. And it's funny because it may be like, oh, Chandra, that's more expensive. And there are times when we can't afford to go to, say, a nice restaurant. We need to hit a drive-through for financial reasons, and I honor and respect everybody's situation like that. But when you're in a situation where you do have a choice, it's like that Lizzo song. Take it off the higher shelf. Take the go for the top shelf stuff. And I think it's really about. I think it equates to how we view ourselves and our self-esteem, and whether we feel that we're worth it. It's just a really fundamental, basic view of ourselves that has been created over time that we may need to update. We're worth it. Why? Because we are born. I mean, we don't need to prove anything to anybody. We're just, everybody. I just feel like everybody's worth it. So.
I love that. Everybody is worth it. Let's talk to that person who's ready to make a change, or we've convinced them to do it. And literally, the hyper tactical, what is the next step? How do they find an extra 10 minutes? What do they do to start to get on this journey, to even like sign up for your course, whatever it is? How do we get them to take that next step? Okay, they're inspired.
Well, there's literally no barrier to it because it's free. I'm offering the roots portion of the course for free, and then if they like it, they can do the rise. But yeah, so that is such a good question. So everybody is motivated in different ways, and I think that some of it is, hey, look, we're getting of a certain age, and we have had this mentality of, oh, we'll get to it, or if there's plenty of time for that, or whatever. But there's not really that length of time anymore. And I think that when people look at what not doing it is going to cost them, I think that's a huge motivator. It's like, what is it going to cost you to not treat your body well are you willing to take your medicine in that area? Because what could happen could be devastating to your life. Are you willing to let you live by default and let the universe, take over? And, not that I'm creating fear or anything, but it's like stuff can happen when you're not, putting yourself first. And so I think that it's looking at it and going, well, maybe it would be fine for a while, maybe a year, but what is it going to look like in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, if you don't address those things? Why not now? I mean, especially while we're in this kind of weird transitionary time, to use it for that, to prioritize yourself and to get back to what you want, and that could be health and fitness goals. It could be career goals, it could be relationship goals, all these things in your roots, figure out what you do want, why you want those things, what those needs that are being motivated for it. And then figure out what you're going to be willing to do about it, from the very simple things of, hey, purchasing organic or off the top shelf, to something more elaborate, like taking a course or going back to school. I think that's for everybody to decide what kind of investment they're willing to make in themselves. But I just like to leave them with the message that they're worth it.
Yeah. Pete Kocher's a friend. He's produced and hosted, 20 episodes of the Break It Down show. And I don't know if you know who Pete is, but he's an actor, former NFL player, and now he's a fitness guy. He's mid 50s, and he's going through some broken body parts. So he's got his meniscus repaired, and his shoulder's been giving him trouble. And he's been really open about that, because this is what a late middle-aged body looks like. And when people ask him as a trainer, like, hey, when should I start training? He's like, 25 years ago. Like, so what are you waiting for? It's time to get started. 28 hours a month is what it takes to get fit. If you can't do 28 hours, then that's your journey. Let's get you to 28 hours. And you do that by doing it. Don't wait till the first of the month. Don't wait till the 15th. Don't wait till the next. You should have started a long time ago. Still time. Let's get to work on getting you to where you need to be. But then also work within the limits of your body. His knee is hurt right now. So what can I do to get my 28 hours in with this knee that's recovering?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that the key is not to get too overwhelmed, to know that you can start with small steps. And when you are focused on what you want, then it's easier to understand what those steps are. When you're feeling super overwhelmed, I think that's when we don't know how to prioritize the steps to take. When we're clear, we can have it, create steps. When we're not, we're all over the place. And so if anybody is having that experience of overwhelm, and everything is, maybe even feeling confusing, not sure about what's important anymore, having feeling like you're spread thin, that you don't know how to organize your time because everything is equally important, that's actually a great indication that there's not enough focus, not enough prioritization about what is important, and you're just trying to do it all. And to expect yourself to do it all at a high level is asking too much of yourself, and there'll be consequences. There'll be a toll that gets taken on you by spreading yourself too thin over time. And so to take that pause and prioritize is probably the best gift that you can give to yourself. And it gets back to that really earlier advice that you gave everyone of taking that pause. And by pause, I don't mean you're not doing anything. It's what you're doing is you're focusing on yourself and what you need, connecting with what you need, and taking action accordingly.
When a little boy goes to take his coat off of the coat rack in kindergarten, they'll pull down. And if the coat doesn't come off the hook, you know what they do? They pull harder. They pull and they pull, and they don't stop and go, hey, maybe if I lifted or if I walked backwards or anything, like they just hyper focus on that thing. And I think we're all guilty of that at some point in our life, where we just pull harder, even though the result is going to be the same, and those pauses sometimes let you go, how can I approach this problem differently? The other thing I wanted to say too is we're awfully damn hard on ourselves. You were just alluding to it. We set the bar at 8.5 feet. And if we don't jump over it every goddamn day, you're a loser. But the reality is you're not going to jump over the record every day. Just constantly be productive, and don't lose track of the fact that, you're a mom, you're running a household. You cooked 2 meals today, 8 total meals for people. That is a significant accomplishment. It might seem like nothing to you. Reassess that thought, because really, like, that means you had to get groceries, you had to account for a menu. You had to do all of these things to make these meals happen day in, day out. Don't underestimate what you've done, because it's likely a lot more than you realize.
Well, yeah, I think we do have high expectations of ourselves because in addition to managing all of that on a day-to-day level, then we expect ourselves to also do really great things out in the world and be recognized for them on a bigger stage, especially now
Yeah.
with social media. How many people liked it and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that's why getting back to what's meaningful and important to you is where you can start to focus and be able to make sure that what you are doing is significant, and it's not that you're just doing everything for everybody all the time and you have nothing, you're just going to burn out, and feel overwhelmed. But if you're really focusing, then you can do great things. And like I said, with the musicians, a lot of them are really great because of just the amount of time they focused in a particular direction. So if you have a goal and it just seems to elude you, it may mean that there needs to be more focus, going that direction, and just don't lose sight of the other things that need to be kept in balance while you're doing that. And I know that's a big ask, but it is possible when you break it down.
Well,
um,
listen, we're running out of time because we've had you for about an hour, and I know you're
I'm
always a
running out of
busy.
battery life. I started completely full on this laptop. I'm wondering if the mic sucks the juice or what's happening. I'm down to like
It does.
5%.
Yeah, it's USB
Oh,
mic.
thank you, Todd. I'm rooting for you. That is so cute. I'm rooting for you too. Let me know how I can help the rhino work. I would love to. I saw rhinos in Africa and it was just majestic.
Yeah. Everybody should definitely check out. Let me put it up here on the screen here. Chandra's website. Hook up with her on LinkedIn as well. I mean, that's where a lot of her stuff
Yeah.
happens. If you don't need marketing, there are other things that she has, but just in general, you can follow what she does there. And look, if you guys can't tell, I just love the hell out of Chandra. And whenever we talk, it's always just these great exchanges where we just feed on each other. And I get excited. I want to go work. I'm going to go get in the pool here next, but I always want to go back to work and work on things. And you're just such an inspiration. I just love what you're doing. I love that you're
Thank
kicking out this
you.
course for free for people. It's anything to get folks in the right direction. You guys have a great model and a great mentor in Chandra.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So glowliving.com is where there's a ton of free resources. There's also a free quiz on there that'll tell you what your top driving hidden force behind your decision making is. And it relates to your needs and how how they're driving your decisions. So I invite everybody to take the quiz as the first step to their journey, because when they learn what's motivating their decisions, then they can make great decisions. And I think great decisions is what puts you on a path to a great life. So I would say glowliving.com and take the free quiz first. Then you'll learn, your top driving force that's behind your decision. And then you'll learn what the other forces are that are at work through some emails that you'll get. And then you'll be introduced to the Root to Rise course. But I'm going to follow up with a special link to give you the free Roots Part 1 of Root to Rise course in I guess on after the show. We'll post it.
Perfect. I'll put it into the show notes and YouTube, and then the overall podcast notes. If you guys are listening, look in the podcast notes to get Chandra's offer. All right. So
yeah, and I'm a big fan of you too, Pete, and the Break It Down show. And I would also love to share our past interview. So maybe we can add that link too. Because like I said, I was listening to it this morning and there was so much goodness in that one too. And we cover some different
things. The link is right there. There it is. There's the
yeah.
link if you're looking on the screen.
Yeah. You guys check that one out. That's another hour of awesome content. I loved that interview. We talked more about the music industry in that one.
Yeah, we did. So anybody who wants to get more from Chandra, you know where to go now. LinkedIn, for sure. Check out that first interview. And in any podcast episode in the notes, and gosh, I take a lot of time to put these notes together. I put relevant shows in there, and I always put the live version if you want to hear or watch that. If you have any other questions at all, you guys can always hit me up at pete@breakitdownshow.com, or you can hit me up at Pete A. Turner on any social media. Chandra, hand out your handles for where you're at and working on social media.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you can go to Glow Living, and that's the main one to use. I think on Facebook, it's actually facebook.com/ glowliving.com. And then on Instagram, it's just at glowliving. And then everything's linked up from glowliving.com. Just go there and you'll get everything. And definitely follow me. And you can email me too at chandra@glowliving.com. I would love to hear from you.
Thanks, Chandra. Okay, hold on, stand by. We're going to sign off.